Hey, Hector.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm good. Happy to be home. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how long have you been away?
3.5 weeks I was in Europe teaching. Yeah, we just got back Thursday night or something like 2 days ago.
And home is still Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, Bushwick, the
Yeah.
heart of Brooklyn.
Yeah, Hector, I have the grace of having been in Hector's amazing loft, you would call it, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
in Brooklyn. It's the coolest spot. Um, but before I start talking about your home, maybe I should introduce you. Everyone out there, listeners, this is Hector Marcel, and he is one of the most amazing people that I have had the fortune of crossing paths with. And this is such a treat and honor to be able to have this conversation with you, Hector. Thank you so much for being here. Um, I think if it's okay with you, I'm just going to jump in and read your bio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So here we go. Get ready. This is a good one.
I'd like
Hector,
to hear it.
yeah. Hector Marcel is a passionate organizational change management professional specializing in performance, culture, and service. With more than 20 years' experience leading successful cultural transformations in the public and private sectors in Australia, Hector now consults from his base in New York City to international clients. He is a seasoned teacher of meditation and Eastern philosophy, linking ancient Asian ideas to modern Western systems for individuals and teams. He is the president of Three Jewels, a New York-based Enlightenment studio dedicated to help people reach their highest potential through meditation, yoga, public talks, and community outreach. Hector served as the Senior VP of Learning and Change for John Foley Incorporated, delivering workshops and keynotes of high performance designed to achieve excellence in teams and inspire individuals to lead a life beyond their dreams. He was the Executive Director and National Chair for the prestigious Prime Minister's Service Excellence Awards at the Customer Service Institute of Australia, Australia's peak customer service body, setting international benchmarks for service organizations around the world. Hector's strength lies in his ability to genuinely engage with people's core drives, to build networks that garner support for change and the greater vision of the organization. He enables individuals to build integrated change interventions that deliver robust business results through a focus on people, performance, and a culture of service. Bam!
There's so much there.
It's so good!
I haven't heard that for ages.
It's so good. And I mean, I've read it over and over so many times because it just never ceases to amaze me. Hector, I have to ask you the question.
Yeah, yeah.
How did your journey start? Where did you start? Where did it begin? Please share.
This is the easiest one and my favorite line. I was born when I was very young. Sorry.
And cut.
No, I'm a migrant kid. I'm a kid of a migrant family. I was born in Argentina. My parents moved to Australia due to political unrest and persecution. In that period in Argentina, where many men and boys were disappearing, right? So there was that happens a lot in South America, but it was happening in the mid 70s, early 70s, and so my dad and my mum thought we'd get the kids out of here. And we ended up in Australia, as a migrant family. Early days of migration, really, for us, we didn't know. My parents didn't know that you had to speak English to be in Australia, even though we'd heard it. So my dad's, expertise, his profession, which was telecommunications via satellite, was, that kind of industry. And my mum was working for Ciba-Geigy. It's an old chemical company.
Okay.
They couldn't do that in Australia,
Right.
because they didn't have the language. So they ended up sort of cleaning toilets and cleaning offices, and eventually building a business or a couple of businesses, sort of contracting and cleaning office buildings. And so for me, that was my upbringing. Neither of them finished high school. They got me to finish high school. Neither of them went to university. I ended up in university. And so this merger of Spanish culture and sort of South American sort of poor culture, really, and then Australia process systems and so on, like we flowered as migrant kids. There was the real sense of opportunity, and I feel people feel that when they come to any Western country.
Wow, what a cool perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if they apply themselves. We also
Right.
moved there with a bunch of other migrants from Argentina who, instead of being pushed by their parents, like my dad used to say, like, we're not Argentinian, we're Australian now. So learn English, make Australian friends, figure out what it is. We are not Argentinians. So we're not hanging out with Argentinians. We're not reminiscing about all the culture and the food, and that'll come later. But for now, learn,
Yeah.
And so I don't know, we took that to heart, and many people that came with us didn't, and then they reminisced. It was nicer in the old country and so on, and they never really got the benefits of learning another way of looking at life.
Right.
And I'm making it sound short and sweet, but it was really painful for my parents and for me as a kid to observe. And I think it was there where I saw such powerful change, like my parents having to clean toilets wasn't a good thing. My dad, the first time I saw my dad cry when he came back from work going, did we make a mistake,
Wow.
And
And you
then
remember that.
Oh, very clearly, very clearly. And then, at school being teased for looking the wrong way. I mean, I was short, chubbier, bowl cut, like a bowl cut. I mean, salami sandwiches and, so.
Salami.
Yeah, so I was made fun of in school and got into a bunch of fights because I looked different, couldn't speak properly, and so on. So I was teased a lot, all the naughty words for migrant kids. But I think it was that tension and that struggle and figuring out ways to survive, the tension and the disharmony that strengthened me, really. Like I figured out unconscious ways. Later I figured out that I was figuring out unconscious ways to relate to people, figure out if I'm about to get punched or about to get dissed or about, and figured out how to solve for that. And I think that started my change career.
Could I ask you a question? Could we pause there for a second?
Yeah, of
I
course.
find that so interesting what you just said, because honestly, I've never heard anyone say that before in the way that you just put it. The fact that you were figuring out at that age, unconsciously, like you didn't realize what you were doing then, but in hindsight, you now realize that you were giving yourself the skills. And I myself have had moments where I look back at my past and I realize, oh, I was giving the same, exactly what you're saying. Like, that's how I got through that. I was, in my version, it was like a version of prayer that I didn't even realize was prayer at the time, right? But now I'm like, oh, that's what was happening. So what were those, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I just am like so into this. Like, how do you think you knew at that age? Is it just instinct? I mean, you're a teacher, so I'm sure you have an answer for this. How does a child create those tools?
I think when you get bullied, you've got a couple of options, right? You punch back. Like, it's just the amygdala going off, right? It's the reticular activator. You punch back, so you engage with aggression to aggression, yeah?
Right.
You withdraw, cocoon, hide,
Right.
freeze, or you escape, you run away, you avoid, And none of them work long term. None of those things work. So it wasn't working, all the things, and it wasn't until I figured out a diffuse. There's this really terrible word, which is like the N word here, but it's the W word in Australia. It's you wog, and it means like it's just the worst of the worst thing you can call a migrant, So I was called that a lot, and it hurt, like it really hurt. I was singled out, and they meant it meanly, and it's okay. I mean, it actually made me stronger.
Yeah, I get it.
But I couldn't figure out, and there's this really large Australian girl who, was too tall to be in school. She was the tallest, the largest, the toughest. She was, looking back, she was probably hurting, and so the only way she could figure it out is to boss everybody around, and used to hit me over the head and mess up my perfect hair, and she'd call me you effing W, and I just didn't know how to get through to her. I had to avoid her as soon as I saw her. I used to get very scared. This is sixth grade.
Yeah.
Then it just came out of my mouth, and I noticed the impact, and I said, actually, before you say it, I am an effing wog. I am like the worst wog ever. I am a piece of as like I just said all the taunts that she was going to say to me. I preempted it, and I'm like, yep, it's me. And she froze. She didn't know she didn't know what to do. And so there was something in that owning the insult. And I don't know, there was just another tactic. But there was an observer in me that caught that worked. And so I think that grew into if you can figure out the intent of the other person, or you can preempt it and you can diffuse it before it gets. She left me alone post that. She never bothered me. In fact, in the years where Facebook started, she messaged me to apologize and
Stop.
said, yes, swear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
wasn't too bothered. I think she gave me my change career, and many other incidents besides.
Wow, that's just so cool. Just right there, what you just said, though, too, that the observer in you at that young age, you knew in
Yeah,
that
but you
moment.
see, like I didn't know that that's what was happening then.
Right.
I can
Right.
look back now, having like, oh, why am I good at going into an organization and seeing where the tension is? It's like she trained me to do that.
Yeah, but it was like an innate instinct within you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's so there is something to that you have that. You just have the instinct in you.
Yeah.
So wow. Thanks for sharing that. Sorry to
No, you're
take you
welcome.
off.
And that's why I think, now I teach meditation more than anything else. I still do change management. I still teach Eastern philosophy. But the main thing I teach people is learn to focus your mind to the place you'd like it to and keep it there. So use the agency of awareness and you get some agency over it. And it's only because that's where the game's at. If you're aware of what you're doing, I can see that now looking back. I wasn't aware of my awareness there, but I saw the result,
Yeah.
I knew if
Yeah.
I punched back, I'd lose because she was tough. She was big.
Yeah.
I knew if I'd hide, she'd find me. Everybody did, And so I couldn't run away. I tried. I said to my parents, I want to move schools. They're like, are you stupid? No.
No, that's not happening right now. So,
Yeah.
okay, so now we're in high school, and what's happening with your life at this point?
Yeah. Oh, so many wonderful things. I didn't know about my sexuality. I thought I was attracted to guys because I am this darker, fat,
Right.
short kid that spoke a different language. And everyone in Australia, in the school, especially the school I went to, which was sort of by the beach, everyone's a surfer. Everyone's got six packs. Everyone's blonde, blue-eyed, carrying the thing. And I'm like the odd thing out. There weren't too many migrants. So I was really attracted to these bodies,
Right.
And but you can't say that, in South America like that. Every joke was about the gays, Now I've gone full circle. Now I make lots of jokes about the gays. And I've become the bully, the self-bully. Sorry. If you're listening and you're a little bit gay, don't get triggered.
Right.
It's better. You can be a lot gay. And if you're not gay, don't get triggered. Sorry, I'm not sure if this is helpful for your podcast.
It's so good. No, I love that though. It's like, wait, now you have this like bucket of jokes
I do.
that have been on reserve.
I do. It's my way of
Yeah.
breaking the ice, for myself and the people I'm with. So then, the bubbling thing is like, relationship. I have to have babies and I have to, bring babies to my parents and I have to do all the Spanish things. And I loved girls, like girls who are beautiful, or are still beautiful, but then there was this thing rising and I couldn't name. I didn't know. It was years of sort of ping-ponging between I must be gay, keep it secret, shame and all that stuff. And have as many girlfriends as you possibly can, because look how, what a
Right.
Casanova you are and all that, And we're just filling archetypes, right? So the programs that we are, we unconsciously fill in the gaps, right? So if I'm expected to be the South American lover, then I'm going to be the best lover, right? And that means cheating on girls and all this stuff. And then, the worst thing is like I was really masking and hiding my attraction to guys.
Wow.
And But I think we all do that to some degree, not about sexuality, but about any identity or frame of reference. Like the mind only has certain things that we collect from movies or stories or parental or culture. And then when we fit that situation, that's the only frame of reference we got to be that, and like we were talking at the beginning, success is the same thing. What's success look like? Do I have to have a boat?
Right. Yeah.
So what's gaming? To me, it meant you had to go night clubbing, you had to get on a Speedo, on a float and go, hooray, I'm gay. And I'm like, oh, that's not me, or you had to do a lot of drugs, or I had to, and then what's being really sort of a Spanish lover mean? Oh, I had to act, So in both things, you put on some identity that wasn't yours of the making. And so I ping pong around my sexuality as I ping ponged around my identity, am I Australian and so on.
And you've referenced, obviously, from Argentina. Were your parents religious?
My mom was going to be a nun. It's a complicated thing.
What?
She was in a convent.
Wait, before she met your father?
I got to tell you the whole story. Okay, I'll tell you the story, which I found out when I was 35. But I'll tell you, right? So my mom the story I got as a kid, my mom was going to be a nun.
Okay.
She was in a convent from early childhood because her mother had 3 husbands who passed away and she couldn't keep her. So she put her in the convent.
Okay.
My mom would visit her every 9 months or 6 months or just once a year. But she didn't really know her mum that well, yeah? Mm-hmm. My dad, much older than my mum, apparently he used to sell encyclopedias to the nuns at the convent, and one good day left with my mum, right? Left the encyclopedia. So that's the story, the official story we got as kids. But we never met.
Okay, your dad sold encyclopedias to the convent where your mother was going to become a nun, and they started liking one another.
Yeah, and then apparently he got on the back of the bike, and they never came back. That's the story I lived with.
The second you said that, I see, what was her name? Sally Fields in The Flying Nun. I see that image of her.
Yeah. So all this to my parents' religious,
Wow. Okay, got it.
But then I found out, like, why don't we know our grandparents? Like, Mum, why don't we know your mum? And she said, she disapproved of the large age gap. There was 18 years age gap between my mum, who was like 14, 15 when she left the convent with my dad. My dad was 30 something.
Yeah, big
age
gap.
Okay, so I understand.
Yeah.
So that's how we were born. That's how we grew up, etc. Many years later, I'm 35. My parents are now separated. We had met our grandma before we left for Australia. We met her once, so my mum's mum, and that was awesome. But then I'm 35. I go back to Argentina or something. I meet my dad's estranged brother, and he's showing me pictures, old pictures of my dad. And my dad's in a wedding kissing a bride, and it's not my mum.
What?
And I'm like, my dad was married? He's like, yeah, don't you know? He was married to Marta. And I'm like, Marta? Marta is my mum's name. Okay. I know. I'm there. Sorry. So it turns out he was a little bit drunk, so he let the story go loose. So I pretended I knew, but I was shocked inside that my dad was married to this woman, Marta, whose daughter was in a convent and would come and visit them on a regular basis, 6 months a year. And one good day they left my grandma alone, the husband.
Yeah,
left
got
with
it.
The stepdaughter.
Got it. Yeah.
And then my family was born, me, my 2 older sisters, my younger brother. We never knew this. And never knew this. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I figured that out at 35. I told my siblings when I came back. I tried to engage my mum about it. She was shocked that I found out.
Yeah.
It wasn't a topic we could discuss. It was the only topic we could not discuss.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's a big one.
My dad was another story. Yeah. So anyway, are my parents religious? They loved each other.
Wow, that is an incredible story.
Yeah,
That
I
is
know.
an incredible story.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you
They've
for
all
sharing that.
disappeared, so I feel I'm okay. I can talk about it now.
Yeah, but man, oh man, that is so what a fantastic story. And so your dad was an older father for you,
Yeah, he was, and I mean, and my mum worshipped him. She's like,
I'm
he
sure.
taught me everything. You know, he taught me to cook, he taught me to iron, he taught me to sew, he taught me to run a
Right.
business. He taught me, and so he did. He sort of mentored her into being,
But
and
they did separate later.
they ended up separating. My dad was always very jealous and a little bit wild, and my
Sounds
mum
it.
just couldn't take it after a while, so she left. Yeah, once we
Wow.
moved to Australia. Yeah.
Woo.
But
So,
anyway,
and
so that's a good start.
that's fantastic. Okay. So now that we know where your parents land
My
on the
dad is my
religion scale,
grandpa. Yeah.
your dad is your grandpa. Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, I could be. This is Oprah. Are we on the Oprah show?
It's all good. Your dad is your grandpa. Should we switch gear? Actually, that's more like a Maury, not Maury Povich. What was that guy's name with that? Jerry
Jerry
Springer.
Springer. Yeah, Jerry Springer. Yeah. Anyway, so then we diverged. Yeah, I mean, my mum had religious tendencies, but after that, she just said you could choose whatever you need to choose. Yeah.
So she let it be known that you weren't tied to anything.
Yep. I
Oh,
mean, but
wow.
in Argentina, we had to go to church. Everyone did. You know, once we moved to Australia, it became optional.
And so that's actually pretty, I don't know. I think that's pretty progressive of your mom, right?
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was for someone in her situation, her upbringing, and so on. She also had pretty horrible stories about the nunnery.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't kind to her. Yeah,
Right. So essentially your dad, her
saved her really. Yeah,
stepdad really saved her. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So,
But sorry,
okay.
you took a turn.
Are you kidding me? It's fantastic. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I'm so glad I did. So now that we know your parents were particularly religious, you're still at this point in your story, you're still struggling, you're ping-ponging.
Yeah, and religion wasn't going to be the answer. I
Got it.
tried. You know, I fell in love with a girl. Her name was Jenny. Later on, I realized I really was interested in her ex-boyfriend, who was the son of the pastor of her church, and she tried to get me to the church, and so I became a Baptist just to be with Jenny, to hang out with her ex, which is this, you know. Like, but I mean, I looking back, I know I see it that way now. I was
Yeah.
just moved by impulse back then, so Jenny and I were good Christian couple. But something inside me was really questioning, you know, like a really deep question of, like, let's assume there is a God that exists like the one I was being taught. How is it possible that the reality we live in, the horridness of life, could exist if they're all powerful? You know, and I didn't understand, and all knowing, if they knew this was going to be the game, either they know and they can't do anything about it, or they don't know and they won't do anything about it, you know. So there was such a rub there that I couldn't stand it, you know. So I went and tried other churches and other things, got the same story. And then a little puppy of mine, I got a puppy and he had some degenerative disease on his spine, and I went to the pastor and I asked him, is he going to heaven? And the pastor said, absolutely not. Animals don't go to heaven. And I knew with certainty, with absolute certainty, that this sentient creature, the dog, even though he wasn't human, had a consciousness, a life. We would have called it soul, but now I call it consciousness mind. And so that just gave me clarity. I'm like, oh, okay, we're just humans trying to explain this
Right.
highly unexplainable thing and then building dogma around it, you know?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that was my sort of flipping point where I'm like, I'm a complete atheist now. If there is, and they're watching, then they would understand that my choice is because something's not making sense and I really want to get to the truth that makes sense. And so if there is a God judging me, whatever, they would be saying, congratulations, you left the dogma because you're actually interested in capital
Right.
truth, not human endeavors. Yeah.
Right. Which gave you permission to.
Yeah, that gave me
Yeah.
the freedom to go. But then I went and I started looking at philosophy, and I picked up Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead, And that gave me food for thought, and it also shame and a whole bunch of other things from her. But I'd never met a logician like her, like her logic was pristine. She just didn't end up in the right conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A logician like her. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
too fast for me, like my best logic was if there is a God and they could see my honest search for truth, then they'd forgive me. I'm not going to hell. And I was comfortable with that. If they send me to hell, I don't want to be part of a club that would have me as that member, like.
Totally. Totally.
So I
Yeah.
felt really clean. And then I met her logic and I'm like, it's too much for me. I can't do that. So I placed myself in her hierarchy I'm just the pleb, in her hierarchy. And that I carried that for years.
So you really, for years.
For years, I backpacked with her. I went backpacking 3 times around the world instead of going to university because I was too scared to finish. I had started filmmaking, but I didn't have a reference point. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Right.
I had no idea.
Where were you in university?
In
Australia?
Yeah, in Australia. I was doing film production when I started, and then I just had to go around the world. And I had advice from an old guy who said, you don't have to decide at the age of 17 or 18 what you want to do for the rest of your life. Nobody
Again,
knows.
another archetype, right?
Yeah. Nobody knows. So he said, actually, he did this cool experiment. He pulled out 5 glasses of wine. I'm all of 17 or 16 or something. And he just poured them all, different wines. And he's like, don't taste them. Which one do you prefer? And I'm like, I don't know. I've got to taste them. He's like, right. So go around the world, go travel to other countries, taste life, go see what people are like and who you actually want to be like, not what kind of life you'd like to pick up. And he said very specifically, look at 20-year-olds and what makes them happy. Look at 30-year-olds, look up and look at 40-year-olds, then look at 50-year-olds, and then look at old people, which is 60. We're old people.
Yeah.
And then it's like, are they happy? Is that what you want to do? And that will tell you more than going to any university. And I'm like, okay. So I just saved up money, working casual jobs, got a backpack, packed it with Ayn Rand, all of the books. I carried her library with me, and I just read it going around the world. And bumped into Buddhism in New York,
Okay, so that was where it happened.
Yeah.
Wow, so how many years are we talking there with you traveling around?
3 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, you said
3
that.
years traveling.
Okay, so 3 years.
Yeah.
So now you're what, like 20?
28, yeah.
And you're 20. Oh, okay. And you land in New York?
Yep. Yeah,
All
several
right.
times. It sort of became a focal point because you could only buy a round the world ticket at the time, and it could only go in the one direction. And so I just kept using New York as the stopover for South America or for Europe, because I could work here illegally and get cash. Jeez.
Right. Okay. My gosh.
Not anymore. Don't do that anymore.
No. What year? So what year is that?
The first time I came around was 92. And then I settled here in 94, 95. Yeah.
Okay, so why did you settle here?
Because I met Buddhism, and I started a business. So
that literally got you to stay. Okay.
That got me to stay. I'm like, it was like Ayn Rand on steroids, but with a more humanistic perspective. That I didn't know Buddhism was precise, clean logic. Like the Dalai Lamas, the lineage of the Dalai Lamas, they debate reality, perception, phenomenology. They just call it karma, emptiness, the person. But the literature in the Tibetan system is so heady, too heady for people to understand. Imagine something stronger than Ayn Rand's logic and unbreakable. Like it's incredible. So that got me to stay. I'm like, this is better than Ayn Rand.
How did you get introduced? Sorry to interrupt, but how did that happen? Like, how did you get connected to Buddhism in New York?
Yeah, I can give you I'll give you.
I'm in no rush. There is no rush. So please.
Yeah. The medium story about that is I'm backpacking. I end up starting a business with a person here, a fashion photography business, because of my film study in Australia. I was good at
Right.
lighting, yeah. And so I was assisting a bunch of photographers for cash, you know. And then one of them saw me sort of working the room and being good with clients. And they're like, we could start a business together with your hair, which I had long flowing Spanish hair, and your accent. We're going to make bank, you know. So we started a small business together representing fashion photographers for the advertising industry, and we made bank.
Wow.
But I ended up being illegal, you know, because I stayed here without a proper visa. And that created so much tension in me because all my friends from Australia, all my clients, I was lying to all of them, just lying to them. Not by saying anything false, but by not telling them that I can't go with them to Milan for the fashion show because I have to stay here, or, you know, I just couldn't leave the country.
Right.
My mum would call and my siblings would call and my friends would call from Australia and around the world, and they said, we're so proud of you. You've made it in New York. And inside I'm eaten up and I'm lying to them. I'm like, yeah, it was really strong tension. So that's the setting. And then I'm having these fights with my business partner who, understanding I'm illegal, he's managing the bank account. I get a drip of the bounty, and then that creates more tension, but I'm sort of enslaved, you know. And something broke in me, and I had to figure a way out. And it was at that time a bunch of serendipitous things happened in 1 week around Buddhism. A Buddhist book appeared that was valuable and old, and I didn't understand it. I'm surrounded by a Buddhist parade happening at Union Square as I'm trying to read that book the next day.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what's going on? And they're setting up this whole parade, and Buddhists around the world are coming to lecture on, because today's Buddha's birthday, and I'm reading this book. And then and the next day I go to a housewarming party a friend of mine is having, and I'm telling this friend of mine that I'm walking with about the Buddhist book and the Buddhist thing. And I'm like, we got to know something about this Buddhism stuff. He's like, yeah, dude, he's a surfer. And he's like, yeah, dude, we got to do something about Buddhism. I'm really into it too. I'm like, I have no idea what it is. And then we turned the corner to Fifth Street where the party was, and the party was happening. And he's like, check that out. It said Tibetan Buddhist bookstore and tea house, all welcome. And I mistake that for my friend's party. Mm-hmm. But it was 3 Jewels, and it was opening night.
Oh my God.
And it was full of monks and nuns. And this nun grabs me by the hand, and she's like, you brought a gift for Tara. And she takes the gift, and I'm like, my friend's name's not Tara. Maybe she's moving in. Like, I'm dumb. I'm confused. I'm 20-something. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. She drags me to the back of this little shop, 3 Jewels. She makes an offering of my gift to the statue of Tara. I'm like, I don't worship gods, you know, like I'm like,
Right.
But then I had to ask someone, what's Buddhism? Because I had this thing happen yesterday, and I had this other thing happen yesterday. And no Buddhist can give you a straight answer. So nobody answered me, and I was really frustrated. Everyone was like, it's very complicated, Buddhism. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? You don't even know what you are. You know, like I'm applying all my, you know, judgment from the Baptists onto the monks and nuns. Anyway, we find our way out. I go to the party. I get so drunk, passed out drunk. My friend takes me home, and I have this dream that's been the most both prolific, like it was the most transformative dream I have ever had in my entire life. And the summary of the dream, which that could be another podcast, interpreting that dream.
I'm game.
Is that one of the girls I met at 3 Jewels pops out on this quest that I'm running away from my shadows, and she's like, stop, Hector, just stop. You've found home. You don't need to run. And she points to the New York skyline, and she's like, you found home. And there's this massive monastery like in the skyline of New York, and it said 3 Jewels.
Stop.
And it wasn't so much the picture, it was the feeling I had that I don't have to lie anymore about my situation. I will figure it out. I do have a home, and it's New York. And so the next day I had to go and find what this place is. I took that stupid book that I couldn't understand, and I'm like, here, I went back to the place where we had the party, and I met a monk, and he ignored my book, and he's like, "Oh, we've been looking for that. That's a rare book, but do you know how to meditate? We're about to meditate." I'm like, "Who?" There was no one there. It was just him and me. And he's like, "Oh, we hold classes every day, and we're about to start meditating." I'm like, "It's just us." And he's like, "Yeah, but do you know how to meditate?" I'm like, "I don't." He's like, "Do you think you control your mind? Do you think your mind is your mind?" And I'm like, "Of course it's my mind. You stupid." Like, I didn't say that, but I just found Buddhism really stupid at the beginning. Like, it was just like, there were dumb questions.
Right.
And
But
then
yet you were drawn to it.
despite myself, right? Because I couldn't ignore the dream, and I couldn't. It wasn't that I now found home. I'm like, what is this feeling? It makes no sense, but the messages are loud enough that I have to understand.
I just need to, like, that's so powerful what you're sharing, because and thank you for that, because the reminder that at this point you're like, what is this?
Yeah,
I was this is so weird. Like, what do people want from me? But you were open to seeing that there was something happening. Like, what is this?
Because of Ayn Rand, because her logic is so clear that it says you can't have a result without a cause. And the result was, I'm having these coincidences that all the crystal people were finding all blissful, but I wasn't. I'm like, this is sort of annoying. I don't understand. So there was an analytical mindset trying to understand what coincidence come from. Why did the feeling arise from the dream? That's too much of a coincidence for me to ignore. It wouldn't be logical for me to, it wasn't, I wasn't coming to it, which I still sort of want to defend that identity. Even now as a sort of seasoned Buddhist teacher in corporate, and in modern world, I still want people to understand it's not this kind of, surrender to the Burning Man experience, It's like, understand that your movement of mind must come from something. And I needed to understand that. I didn't know to name it that way. So, I ended up realizing I couldn't meditate for 3 seconds, let alone 10 seconds, which really frustrated me. If my mind is doing stuff that I don't choose, which is the first time I realized, then who's running the show? And it's not me. And that scared me. Like, if I'm not running the show, who's running the show? And I'd already said it's not God, right? So I've already, Ayn Rand made me sort of, you're a piece of shit for being in the show. So who's running the show? And I was very bothered by the fact that I couldn't. So I kept sort of challenging the monk. I'm like, let's try again. I couldn't go past 3 seconds. He's like, we'll get there. We'll get 10 seconds. And so then every day I went training. But for 2 years after that, I sort of was fascinated with the philosophy, but held this distance of, you look religious, you look Catholic actually, too many rituals, too many monks and nuns. But the thing that kept drawing me in was this profound, profound understanding of the mind, which is the only filter we have to understand ourselves, the world, and the people in it.
Whew. So you continued. You just kept going. And was this at this point, since you're still feeling that a little, I don't want to say disconnect, I don't know, that's not the right word, but since you're not like completely, again, cheesy way of putting it, but bought in, I don't know, but you're still, is it at this point sort of a challenge to master it? Are you still kind of mechanical about it at this point? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, there were two things that were happening. The main person that was running Three Jewels, his name was Geshe Michael. He's the first American to graduate in the Tibetan system. So, and you graduate 20 years of study. He was translating the entire monastic curriculum into English for the very first time ever in history, right? So imagine Buddhism moved from India to Tibet. It sat in Tibet for about 1,000 years. Treaties upon treaties, like tomes and tomes of debate and wisdom are there. And then there's 5 great philosophical books that the Tibetans study and debate and logize, so have logic over debates. He was translating that, the same curriculum that the Dalai Lama studies, like the same curriculum he studies. He was translating it into English while I met Three Jewels. And so for me, it was I'm fascinated in comparative
Yeah.
religion. I'm fascinated by story from the film thing. I'm fascinated by myth and the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
So here is this access point to a secret world that was locked away for 1,000 years. That was so
That's
sexy
so
and
cool.
so attractive
Yeah.
that I felt fake being in the audience because there were all these translators and all these philosophers, and then there's me sitting there unable to control my mind, but fascinated at every new unraveling of that Eastern philosophical viewpoint. And so
Like
that,
a true student.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I was, and so what I was engaged with that, I was fighting my ideas of dogma, and fighting my ideas around organized religion, and because it just looked like that. So there was this dissonance in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and then secretly, quite secretly, same theme as being closeted gay for a long time. I was closeted, either depressed or anxious about being illegal and not
Right.
telling truth. And so the philosophical answers were giving me clues, and the meditation, work your mind, were giving me clues how to unravel that. And so
Mm.
that was the engine, the hidden engine that kept returning to the really crappy meditations that I performed, or engaged in. Like it kept going there because there was a hope, only because of the logic that was being translated. So this beautiful triangle of a hidden pull and polarity, between your shame, your fears, your hopes, and all that uncomfortable human stuff, access to 1,000 years of Eastern wisdom, which no one else ever heard of, but all the westernized versions of Eastern philosophy, you could see how they land there, but there weren't anything like I'd ever learned or been presented. And then the struggle with my own mind to not be able to own it, not run the show.
Wow. So are you still, and excuse me, at this point, are you still working with the fashion
Yeah, yeah,
photographer?
yeah, yeah. We're working there. And then it was after a few years of Buddhist study that I realized that connection, this might be sort of triggering for some people, the connection between ethical behavior and peace of mind, right? So when you see those two work in your mind, like if I'm doing something, if I'm lying to you or being shitty to you, or, you know, whether you hear it or don't hear it, I hear it. Whether you register or don't register, my mind records it and registers. So I am now in dissonance, and your mind cannot meditate when it's in dissonance. It can't focus because there's all this unresolved tension. So then I began to understand the connection between a stable mind, an easy mind, and living life ethically. Not the rule from the bearded guy, but
Excuse me.
bless you. So
There it is.
yeah,
The
yeah.
sneeze has been coming on. Excuse me.
I saw it. So
Okay.
on that realization,
Sorry.
a really cold truth arose. I can't be lying to my clients. I can't be lying
Yeah.
to my family. I can't be lying to the government of the United States. I have to do everything to become legal. So I went and sought a lawyer. I put all the money we had saved on it. And he said, yeah, you're going to get your green card, no problem. Go back to Australia, pick it up. And then it was around the Clinton elections in the 90s or whatever he was doing. And when I got to Australia to pick up my visa, they rejected it. And then I couldn't come back for 9 years.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Wow.
in an act of truth to be ethical, I now exit myself from this incredible philosophy, the incredible organization. We had 17 photographers. We were the first ones to photograph Oprah Winfrey from the cover of Essence magazine. We photographed JFK Jr. for the I can't remember the name of the magazine.
Washington? What was it
Was
called?
that?
Washington Magazine or
Yeah, it was. I think it might have been. I can't remember.
George?
George, that's it. You got
George.
it.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, good, good. Yeah, it was George. Yeah,
Wow.
he was on the cover. We did that,
Yeah.
and so we had a good crew of photographers, and the company was going good. But then I screwed that up. I left. Didn't come back. My partner was pissed, and so everything crumbled. But I still had the recordings and the spilling of this 18 core courses from the Buddhist perspective, which transformed my world, like transformed my worldview. Still didn't want to be Buddhist, like I didn't want to be gay, but I am Buddhist in the truest sense, which is my journey in my mind is I need to Buddha
Yeah.
to wake up. Bud means to awake in Sanskrit. Buddha is the one who woke up from the false story that they have to be a particular way as a human, or life is only the way humans experience it. Reality is way beyond our limited perception of reality. And Buddhas, they wake up to reality in its totality, And so I became that's why my name on WhatsApp, on Instagram is Wake Upist.
Yes.
Because I don't want to be Buddhist. I don't want to be dogma, Mm-hmm. I actually want to keep my mind so engaged to a worldview that investigates, that does not believe the lie that the only reality that exists is the one humans perceive, and that's not true. And as long as we think that way, we'll be suffering the consequences of only engaging with a tiny slice of reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So this time that you were in Australia, you're continuing to study.
And that's where I picked up the change management. Yeah, and that's where I started doing change management, working in organizations. Yeah.
And are you still connected to Three Jewels somehow, or?
Yeah, I'm now the president of the board.
From Australia?
No, I moved back here now 17 years ago.
No, I'm sorry, I'm still in Australia. So while you were there, nothing.
No, in Australia, I tried, it was before internet, before cell phones. I tried to call in desperation for some support or some understanding. Nobody answered because it was 3 a.m, and it's $5 a minute. So after a while, it was pretty clear I had the coursework. I had to internalize it. I had to practice it in Australia. So then in my decade of working there, I became a trainer, an organizational change consultant, and I would grab the core ideas from that philosophy and apply it to change. Like ethics, like treat your customers not the way you want to be treated because it's good for business, but because it's good for the customer. And if you live your life that way, you'll be an ethical organization. I'm not selling it as ethics. I'm selling it as a way to really engage and think through a product, a system, a process that takes care of others, which is the only way you're ever going to be taking care of yourself. And so that became my change interventions became pretty popular in Australia, and I got consulted around other organizations, and I got a little name for myself.
I'm just curious how you came up with the idea of applying this Buddhism thinking that you've been awoken to, or that you've, into business. Like, where'd that connection come from?
Yeah, so it came from a desperate need to want to keep learning. So the idea of Buddhism in a nutshell, the key that makes all the Buddhist practices turn on is, if I can simplify it, is like, if you want something, help someone else get it first.
Yeah.
Because if you do, you're creating a bunch of imprints in your mind in the wish that other people get fulfilled or get satisfaction. Your mind is recording that, and it then creates the results of that course. There's a ton of theory, debate, etc. But in essence, whatever you want, try and help other people get it. Don't succeed, just try. And I desperately wanted more of that wisdom. So I realized if I wanted to be taught Buddhism deeper, I should teach other people whatever they need. And so I became a trainer in an organization. I can do that. I can train people on systems and process. And I did that with that motivation. If I'm your teacher in the corporate setting, then what do I teach? Oh, then I could access all the Buddhist stuff. Be kind, do all the things you want, Yeah. One big change that really worked for me, it was a sort of the flipping point, is I was working for an electricity company who had several safety accidents and had killed some of their employees by mistake, and had killed some customers because power lines came down, people touched it, the switch didn't go off, and so people died. And so they invested in a change initiative to try and make more humanistic something that had failed. So safety and humanistic. And so that was fodder for all the wisdom that I had learned through the Buddhists, right? So kind, love, compassion, think of others, etc., etc. So the only way that I could really invite that company to become sort of customer centric instead of process centric, robotic, was to humanize people engaging with electricity, you know? So to help the engineers run an electricity company, so engineers are just engineers. And so to humanize the engineers, I had to make them think and come up with the reality that the electrons that you're pushing down an efficient pipeline are actually not just electrons, but they are life source in a hospital bed. They are food at a kitchen top, you know, stove top.
Right.
They are light in a scared child's room. And when I made that connection for them, the whole company shifted culture, you know, over years. It took a couple of years. And so that's really sort of my biggest success in terms of bringing Buddhist practices, which are just about thinking of other people because you're one of the people, you know, and acting in a way that would bring some peace of mind and some harmony to people. So your mind can be in harmony, you know? And so that's how it started. And then, like,
you know what, I just have to say one thing really quickly. It's so interesting to me and like completely enlightening and makes so much sense. When you said, as you were going into what you just explained, you start off by saying something to the effect of out of a desperate need for, and I thought you were going to say money. Right? I thought you were a desperate need to you know, provide income for myself. And no, it was to learn.
Yeah.
And, you know, that, I just want to like pause on that for 1 second, because that's what it all comes down to. When we do things just because we need to make money, it tends to not work.
No,
and when,
no.
you know, so
I
wow.
never thought about it that way. You know, like I did need to make money. So I did need to make money. So obviously, because I had to pay for myself.
You have to live.
Yeah. But maybe because I knew sort of what it was like to live in a house with a dirt floor, to live on rice and scraps. Like I was never bothered about how much money I needed to make. So long as I could pay my rent and feed myself, even if it was just veggies, I was going to be fine. But what I had tasted in the Buddhist philosophical study was just scratching the surface. And now I had questions. Like I had studied enough to glue me to the philosophy. By the time I returned, I understood I was going to do that for a long time. But we had scratched the surface in the coursework. Like you grab 2,500 years of Buddhist commentary and practices and teachers who have lived this thing, and I just got, you know, a few years of it and a bunch of books. But there's a much deeper wish to understand reality once you get through the surface. And then everything, job, rent, relationships, self-image, all of them become just fodder for that understanding.
Wow.
You see what I mean? So for me, my desperate need was I just got disconnected at the wrong time because I was desperate to know more, you know, which is the right time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because all those things, relationships, you know, living, job, all of that, they kind of, if I'm hearing correctly, they almost become vehicles for deeper understanding.
Yeah.
The need for those, right.
Yeah, like everyone uses those things, money, relationships, status, health even, to try and avoid two basic conditions that humans and animals share. We don't want what we don't like, and we want more of what we like. That's it. We all have that in common, right?
Yeah.
We are running away from the things that hurt, and we run towards the things that have a promise, and we always come up disappointed, and it's never enough. And if you understand that, and you question what's behind that, what's behind those urges, can you actually pacify the want to run away or want to go towards? And the philosophy taught me absolutely you can, and that's what peace means, nirvana means, enlightenment. Right. Like it's a state of being, not later in heaven, like now, that you can train your mind to abide in whilst stuff happens, relationships, jobs, health, etc., to train your mind and your experience of being beyond the nominal. And so then suddenly practice becomes an actual thing and not some dogmatic religious which Buddhists have. You have a whole Buddhist institution who churn out monks and nuns, like a Christian institution. Like, humans will do human, but
Right.
there'll be people who actually turn on the realizations in their mind. And I don't know, nowadays I share this in corporate and in my Buddhist teachings. If you looked at the human condition as we have it right now, just the eyeball, right? We spend most of the time looking at things. I like that guy, he's sexy, look at those abs, right? Or I look at the money, look how green, and whatever. Or I want ice cream or whatever, right? We spend so much time engaging with visual stuff.
Especially now.
Right? Yeah, especially on the phone. But the eyeball, the human eyeball, is only capable of capturing 0.0035% of the light spectrum. So get that for a second, right? We are incapacitated by less than 0.1% of what's actually light. We can only see less 0.0035%, right? And yet we have this kaleidoscope of reality we engage with: the blue sky, the red dresses, the incredible array of things. So not only that, the eyeball can't even see you, right? It can't even see Hector. Hector is a concept placed upon the colors and shapes, which are not even all of the colors and shapes, inside a skull, which is pitch black, right? And so the study of Buddhism is like, where did that conception come from? Because it is a conception. There is a Marion, there is a Hector, there is a listener, there is a you, but not the way you think. That's an illusion. And if you understand the construct that created that, you can break free from the 0.0035% and understand the totality of reality, which is always available to us, just not through the eyeball.
Yeah, you know what this is? Thank you. That's so beautiful. And what it's making me think about, do you know Byron Katie? Have you ever heard of her?
No.
Oh, I'll send you her stuff after this.
Yeah.
But excuse me, she's always similar teachings, and I'm pretty sure she has a background in Buddhism as well. But this idea of perception, it's just really mind-boggling, and saying that, framing it through that lens, it's bringing me thinking of you in Australia with this 9-year almost sentencing. Like, are you kind of waiting? And I know that you're learning and you're teaching during this time, so you're not sitting there, twiddling your thumbs. But are you still thinking, I want to get back to the States? Or
That's such a good question. So, Marion, there wasn't a single day that went past that I didn't think of being back here.
I didn't expect you to say that. Wow.
Every single day, I was imagining what it would be like to not New York for the sake of New York, but having met such a powerful thing with my mind, I wanted to be around it and not miss a beat while it was being translated from Tibetan Sanskrit into English. I knew I had found a gem so rare, and I still had some shame about being viewed as a religious person, or I still had some of those things, but I knew that I had tapped onto, I don't know, I imagine this is what miners do when they go mining for gold, and they get, is it a vein of gold that then you followed, I felt that out of the entire earth I had tapped into a diamond mine, and this vein of diamond was right there in New York with all my friends that I'd made at 3 Jewels, and they were learning and they were having all the answers of all the questions I had to self-regulate with cassette tapes. I mean, remember cassette?
Yeah, of course.
We had recorded all the lectures, and we had cassette tapes, to listen. And then listening and reading is one thing, but applying is a completely different thing. So if we are locked in 0.0035% and everything is perception, well then why do some people have a good perception or a bad perception about the same thing? Right? So for me, it was the yelling boss, right? My business partner was always yelling at me, and I hated it. He loved it. My neighbor loved it. So why is the perception of decibel, and Hector, your stupid words, so triggering to me, but so joyful for my neighbor, right? If the words themselves cause the pain, then, which is what we believe, right? He said
Right.
abusive things to me, that's why I'm upset, right? But if the abusive thing causes the upsetness, then my neighbor who heard the abusive things must also be upset. If the power of upsetness belonged to the decibels, Hector, you are stupid, it should
Right.
equally spread out the disease, which
Right.
didn't. It made them happy, it made me unhappy. So that clear logic, which is not the way we're used to thinking, points to my mind interpreted the 0.0035% of Hector, you're stupid, into a very personal, terrible thing. Which means if I'm responsible for the upsetness, if my world span and I was spinning my world and I didn't know it, I could unspin it.
Yeah.
If it was the boss yelling, if it was the situation causing my pain, right, then I will never stop hurting because I can't control the situation. But if I can control my response, my automatic response, if I can train my mind, and that's why meditation is so key, if I can train my mind to not fall for the trigger and watch it, I could turn that pain into power, or I can turn that suffering into wisdom, or.
Yeah. So, wow, it's so powerful. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
wait to listen to this, by the way. So, that's making me think about how in today's culture, and we'll come back to you in Australia, but just quickly, in today's culture, there's, especially with, Instagram and the sort of quick motivational quotes that you see, and, you hear a lot of like, let it go, leave
Have
it
3 breaths.
behind, right? And, you know, I mean, I'm wondering, in your perspective, because you've been studying for so long, are
Yeah.
you finding a lot of this Eastern wisdom and knowledge, Buddhist, has made its way into pop culture in a very like watered down, easy, digestible way?
Yeah, yeah, I have. And I used to be really pissed off about it,
Yeah.
which is not very Buddhist of me. I used to be like, because, I think it's leading people down an unattainable hope.
Right.
Do box breathing and all your traumas will go
Yeah.
away. Like that's not true. Or do this
Right.
somatic movement and suddenly you'll be fine. If we understand the decades, eons, and sometimes lifetimes, if you think of that this consciousness has been trained to respond to reality the way it's currently doing it, you ain't sitting down for a minute and having all your problems go away permanently. You could have an experience that if you jump into your cold plunge and you suddenly come out and you have your experience, or the ayahuasca trip, all the things, yeah, you can have a shift. Yeah, absolutely. But if you mistake that the shift came from the ayahuasca, the cold plunge, the box breathing, you will be trapped in more suffering. Actually, you're destroying the very source that could free you from the suffering. But because why? Because some people do ayahuasca and have a terrible time. Some people do ayahuasca, have a great time. It's not ayahuasca. Some people have a cold plunge and die, and some people have a cold plunge and awake and change their lives. It's not the cold plunge. It's not the box breathing. It's not the somatic dancing. That doesn't mean those things cannot be vehicles
Right.
for something else happening inside you. So
Yeah.
if you can go to ground zero, to your very consciousness, which is producing the automatic responses, and train your mind to see it, meditation, right?
Yeah.
Then you will be able to understand the correlation of cause and effect. What must my mind have recorded to produce this movie? The illusion. Because the illusion is real. You did get better after your cold plunge, and you did die after your cold plunge. The illusion
Right.
is real, right?
Right.
But it didn't come from the cold plunge. Sorry, and that's hard to say. And I see so much goodness in Instagram and TikTok and all the apps, and that's where people are. So I'm there on fire because that's where humanity is, and to
Yeah.
pretend it's not would be stupid of me. And I have to
Absolutely.
live that way of life so I can understand the triggers and the pulls and the pushes and the narratives, so I can share the perspective of some wisdom in there. In the past,
Yeah.
they didn't have TikTok. If the Buddha had TikTok, they'd be all over TikTok. You know, if they would, they would.
I completely agree. I get it. Yeah. And I mean, also coming back to the work you were doing in Australia and working with businesses, you know, it's interesting to think about how now with technology, I can't imagine the work that you do with businesses now. It's so important because
Yeah.
I know there's no definites, but there is a tendency, it's, at least a little bit right now, in everything, there's a flow and things ebb and flow. But right now there is a leaning towards technology doing a lot of human jobs,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So to have a business still keep the human element, very interesting to
Yeah,
think
no,
about the work you're doing.
it's wonderful. We're being desensitized. This is where we're at, you know. So
Yeah, yeah,
the human condition will prevail. We will
yeah,
continue to find happiness and unhappiness in whatever advancements we meet or whatever devolutions we engage in. The human mind will be unhappy about some, will be happy about others. And here is the tragedy of it all, right? In my disappointment about something terrible in the world, I tend to do something terrible to the world or the people around me. And what I don't catch is that terrible thing I did or intended or thought about gets recorded in me, which produces my experience of the next terrible thing.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, or in my hope that I see something good happening, I tend to want it for myself in a very attached, selfish way. And that just plants, if you will, a seed, a construct in my mind to have good things being pulled away from me. That's the technology of cause
got
and
it.
effect of consciousness.
Yeah,
So it doesn't, part of me is like, so we're on TikTok, so we're on AI. Humans will still suffer the
yeah,
consequences of our negative actions, or enjoy the rapture, the stunningness of the human condition, you know, which is available to us. You know, so it is true what it was named John Lennon's, you know, love is everything, you know. It is true. Because in a state of love for yourself or for another or for the person in your company or for a state of actually loving the other creature, your mind is recording a very different identity and sense of being, which you must reap. Yeah.
yeah,
So serving another, taking care of another, having thoughts of another, that will never change. That will always produce a good result. And it's just finding our way there. You know, and I know that having married people, we all come and gawk at the wedding because we're all depressed that our relationship broke up, but they've got it. So then
right.
grandma goes with grandpa going, see, they still love each other. But so humans gawk at lovers who are in the zone
Yes,
because we know there's hope. You know,
yeah,
because in that moment, there's no conflict. If those two lovers are there from their worldview, everything is magic and everything is possible. And we all can go there. It will go away if we don't know how to keep it. The way to keep it is love others. And the more I do that, the more I'm in love with the world, even if it's busted, you know?
yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how, even if it's busted, so how did you?
Especially if it's busted. 'Cause
Yeah, especially, totally.
busted,
It's so
but
true. I
steady.
mean, but sorry to interrupt. Just it's so true because history shows that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's not. No offense, and I know you won't be by this. It's not
You're
a
going to say something
newsflash.
about the gays?
No,
Sorry, no
no. I
offense.
think you've got that covered.
Good.
It's just it's not. It's history has shown that time and time and time again during the most difficult
Yeah.
tragedies. It's love
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
gets you through.
And it's usually unconditional love, or you know, like I'm
Unconditional
just
love.
doing it to help you.
I'm,
You know, like
yes,
what's today's
yes, sir.
thing? That lady, the Karen lady who tried to get the ball off the. Oh, you've seen it, right? It's all over,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
So everyone's loving the kid, right? It's not
right.
good that they're hating on her, but this moment of tragedy for
Yes,
whoever didn't get the ball in the home run, you know, suddenly everyone's outpouring love for each other, and that's a good thing, you know.
and it's great, and it's also really a good one to bring up because imagine if she had just not done that, or if she had celebrated the kid getting the ball, it just would have been, so it is very,
Yeah.
what a poignant example.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to Australia, how did you get to, and thank you, I can't imagine every day you're
Every
thinking.
day. Every day.
And so once you get to whatever 365 times 9 is day, what happens?
I realized that I had created my own movie about New York, my teacher, and Buddhism in general in the isolation of Australia and my cassette tapes. So being a good change person, I realized I should go for a reconnaissance mission to see if it's true or bullshit. Or did I make a movie that's false?
Right.
New York garbage? Is the Three Jewels or the Buddhist teachers garbage? Did I just make them perfect? I
Right.
needed to test. And then one more test, I needed to check whether immigration was going to notice that it was illegal, and was I allowed to come in as a visitor, and then,
Yeah.
So I took a trip on my 40th birthday, my friend's 40th birthday, I was 41, and immigration didn't even beep when I went through. So I'm like, that's cool. And then I went to Three Jewels, and my teacher wasn't there. The Buddhists had moved to Arizona, so I had to go get a flight to Arizona. I wasn't even kept up to date. And then I met Geshe Michael again, and
In Arizona.
in Arizona, and then everything that I had studied and thought about him on a daily basis was just in front of me, and I could see that it was me and not him that produced the experience. But the experience was real. Okay?
Yeah.
There really was a guy who knew the Buddhist things that I had called my teacher, but not everybody saw him like I saw him, because I had trained to see him a particular way for 10 years, and I saw that projected on him. And so then began my next level of study with him. I stayed in New York. He stayed in Arizona. I got a job offer here. I came back the following year for that job offer, and then we hit the world economic crisis of 2008. The job offer and many others sort of dissolved, and I was in New York eating rice, but not illegal. Yeah.
So you got the job offer, but the job offer fell through.
And then we negotiated, and I worked for like 50 grand a year just to be here.
Just to be here.
Yeah, and it was a tech startup. Yeah.
Okay.
With some investment on the other side, but that was enough to get me here and to study some more. But then I asked my teacher, what should I do and study next? There was so much that had happened with him, and he said, just take care of Three Jewels. And so I started teaching at Three Jewels and sort of reviving. It had died a little, reviving that place, and now we have. I've been doing that ever since, and now we have like 63,000 visits a year, 4,000 plus classes a year, 50 plus teachers teaching internationally. Like it's now a place.
Yeah.
From our work together, many of the teachers that I've trained in meditation or philosophy are teaching in wellness apps, wellness spaces, and so on. So it's become this labor of love that I did as a volunteer while I kept my corporate consulting. And now, I guess, since I've seen you, it's more of a flip. I'm doing 80-90% of my time as Three Jewels and leading retreats and teaching the next generation of teachers, whilst I'm charging clients stupid money and they pay for my life to do that goodness.
That's a beautiful balance.
Yeah, it's but I'm old now. I'm 60. I'm not 30 and excited, and I'm 60 and cynical. No, I'm happy.
Well, one thing that's interesting, I've always loved about you and admired about you, you're surrounded by young people.
Yeah.
You are surrounded by young, like hip New York City young people that are just, and they look at you in such a beautiful way. You're their teacher.
Yeah, it's
You're
a
their
beautiful
teacher.
thing, and I had to sort of figure out why, because I have a client who we became friends with, so a client I coach that runs organizations, and they took me out to dinner, just when we became more friends than clients, and I'm like, I haven't had someone pay for my dinner for ever, I haven't had an adult conversation.
Yeah.
Because I'm surrounded by 20 and 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I sort of began questioning after that dinner a couple of years ago, what is it that's underlying that? And I think it's this beautiful trauma of being pulled away from Three Jewels in my 20s, early 30s.
Absolutely.
And the power that that philosophy had over my productive financial years of, my business years, the fact that I had access to that philosophy and none of my colleagues did meant that even in the toughest time, I could find the good in the company restructure, the new CEO, the change of the competition, the collapse, whatever. I was optimistic, empowered, and capable of owning. My colleagues didn't, they were like dependent on the thing. So I think what I've realized, if I can shove this philosophy into 20 and 30-year-old minds, they're still going to have life, human condition, find your apartment, find all the problems that we have in our 30s. But at least they'll have an option that is their making, that they own, if they find that power there, and I think that's why. Plus, it energizes me. I could not do TikTok without them telling me to do TikTok. I couldn't, I wouldn't have figured any of this out. And I wouldn't have remained true to that initial impulse that I had in my 20s to actually understand the nature of reality, not be dogma, but actually live and abide in a state of awe where some people can hate Bushwick and some people can love Bushwick, and I'm still in awe of the world that surrounds me, even when it's painful or trashed.
But what a gift you are giving to this younger generation, because I'm sure this is nothing new and this happens through time, but I just see the younger generation being pulled in so many different directions and having to make a stance or take a stance about whatever it is, to have to, it does, at least in my lifetime, looking at that generation right now, it feels the most sort of like pick a side that I've ever experienced in my lifetime.
Yeah, no, same.
My lifetime in this life. See, I listen. And, so to know that you're there in this space in Manhattan and all over the world now doing these retreats, offering a space where they don't have to pick a side.
No.
They don't have to be, loud and screaming, some sort of manifesto or whatever. And that's not I'm sorry, that triggers thoughts that I didn't mean to. But I think, just they don't need to pick a side. Let's keep it that simple. Yeah. It's really so beautiful, Hector. Like, we're so lucky that you're in the world doing this.
Thank you. I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel it back from them. Like, to see their lives. I have so many people in my life now who are young, vibrant, and are going to be the future of whatever reality this world lands in. They'll create their future as much as we've created ours, both physically and internally. Like, I'm Generation X. You can try and trigger me all you want. Nothing's going to trigger me, but I see the reality in this generation, and if they can get that power of going beyond the trigger, the manifesto, or whatever it is that is creating in them a suffering, they could remove the suffering and still deal with reality, which is, one of the, you asked me about, modern TikTok-y Buddhism, a bunch of bypassing happens there where they think, if I just pretend everything doesn't exist, it won't exist. That's not Buddhism. It's not Buddhism at all. And even if it was, it'd be stupid, because you can't ignore reality.
I mean, the truth is, it's not anything, right? Yeah. It's not Buddhism. It's nothing. It's just
someone's misunderstanding of some words or some ideas. Yeah.
Right.
So, anyway, so I have hope when I hang around the people at Three Jewels, which many of them now are teachers of their own. They're teaching meditation or they're teaching a yoga workshop, but they are understanding the very fundamental power that every individual has, and they're going to grow as teachers, of course. Most of them just started, but I am very hopeful that the next generation of the wise are coming, and they're coming from Three Jewels.
Yes, yeah. So that,
and they're connecting with other people, that know that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. What an incredible journey you are on.
But it began rejecting the with fear, the box that Australian university would have me go into, pick a career. I don't know, be
Yeah.
the success in this way. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't have a framework from my family, and I wasn't buying the framework from my professors. And it really is a self-discovery thing, and what magic we all are if we're not afraid to look.
Yeah, so that's the final question for you,
Yeah.
which you kind of just did, but how, Hector Marcel, how do you define success?
I don't know.
That's the best. Great. Cut.
I don't know. I really don't.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my God, it's so good. Thank you. That's it. I don't need to do the podcast anymore. We have figured it out.
Stop. Many
We
people
figured it
need a
out.
podcast. Many people need other references.
My vision for years of conversations, no need.
No, you need them. Yeah, because people need to, they won't relate to this thing,
Oh my gosh, no, it's beautiful. Thank you so much, and please let our listeners know where we can find you.
Oh, of course, yeah. So if you're on Instagram, it's at wakeupist, like wake uppers, because Buddha is Bud, to wake, to awake, wake uppist, or at 3joules.org. We're a non-profit, so we raise funds to give access to wellness tools to people of all types, colors, shapes, and the rest on a merit basis, not just because. And we're trying, we've been growing this sharing of information in all sorts of spaces, corporate spaces, yoga spaces, meditation spaces. So 3joules.org, you'll see programming there and retreats and the rest, and at Wake Uppist.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hector. Just so much love for you. And this was even more than I had dreamt of. I've been looking forward to this since the moment you said yes, and I cannot wait to listen to it and for everybody else to hear how incredible you are. Thank you.
And thank you for doing it. It's fun, and I'm glad we're having this dialogue. Yeah.
The best. Have a great Sunday.
We'll do. Okay, bye.
Bye.